At the recent town hall event put on by the Texas Tribune in, of course, the state of Texas, where Republican Senator Ted Cruz took questions from the audience, at one point a heckler, I guess we'll call them, when Ted Cruz was asked about gun violence, why anybody would need an AR-15, he actually told a story of a family who fought off an intruder with an AR-15 and said, that right there, that's why you need it. But at that point, the heckler jumps up and said, violence, where's the quote? I'm sorry. Violence doesn't solve violence. And when Ted Cruz heard that statement, that violence doesn't solve violence, Ted Cruz had this to say. Take a look.
You would rationally say, well, let's look at both the criminal uses of firearms, but also the defensive uses of firearms that stop crimes, that...
That is an argument.
It actually is the only thing that does. If you look at violence doesn't solve violence, look, that's actually why the left wants to abolish the police, and it's why you see murder rates skyrocketing.
All right.
Oh, violence is the only thing that Ted Cruz says solves violence. So if somebody's being violent, the way you handle that situation, obviously, you go up and you're violent back to them. If somebody is going to shoot somebody, you have to shoot them to make sure nobody gets shot except for the person that you now shot. So you yourself just became a shooter. So if somebody over here didn't see that guy was going to fire a shot, but they saw you fire a shot, then they shoot you, but then that guy sees them, and so they get shot. Yeah, Ted, I don't see a single way this could backfire, right? Ted Cruz deserves a little bit of credit here. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say it. I am. Ted Cruz deserves a little bit of credit because when that heckler stood up, when they made that very important point that violence doesn't solve violence, because it doesn't, by the way, Ted Cruz didn't hesitate. He didn't flinch. He didn't get flustered. He didn't stutter, he didn't stammer, he immediately gave a response that even though it's total BS, total right-wing good guy with a gun talking points, but he immediately got it out. Folks, that's why Ted Cruz is dangerous, okay? That right there. You know, I've mentioned in the past, remember a couple years ago, it was like 5 years ago, I think at this point, Ted Cruz did a healthcare town hall with Bernie Sanders. Right? Bernie Sanders, who was a good talker, against Republican Ted Cruz on the issue of healthcare, Bernie's like pet issue. Oh, Bernie walked away with it, right? Hell no, he didn't. Ted Cruz stood on that stage, lied through his teeth all night, but never missed a beat. He was never caught on his heels. That man can lie like he can breathe. And he's damn good at it. He is a good public speaker. I'm not saying I ever like anything he says when he speaks publicly, but he's good at it. That's what makes him dangerous. He was willing to go and sit there in front of that crowd in Texas and take questions from them. How many other Republican politicians do you see actually out there engaging with the public, engaging with people who disagree with them? And rather than doing the Trump thing, saying, he's an idiot, get him out of here, rough him up a bit, Ted Cruz just countered their point. Now, Ted Cruz was wrong. Don't get me wrong. Ted Cruz is totally wrong. But he did it, and he did it in front of people, and there were plenty of people in that room who think it was right. There were probably people in that room that didn't know one way or the other and assumed he was right. That's the scary part of Ted Cruz. Had he not been up against Donald Trump in 2016, Ted Cruz would have been the Republican nominee, and I think he probably pretty easily would have beaten Hillary Clinton. That's how good Ted Cruz is at that. Now, I've repeatedly said Ted Cruz is creepy. Ted Cruz is a pander bear. Ted Cruz loves to change his appearance like a chameleon, politically speaking. But he's also good at it. He knows how to play the game. He just hasn't been able to win it yet. He's kind of like Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, right? He's a good quarterback, but he always finds a way to screw it up for himself in the end. That's what Ted Cruz is, but eventually he's going to get it right. And that's why we always need to take Ted Cruz very seriously, because we never know when his opportunity will come. And if he ever becomes president, that's going to be a disgusting era here in the United States. I know what a lot of you out there are thinking. You're thinking, wouldn't it be amazing if you could wear the Ring of Fire logo across your chest? Well, now you can. Just head on over to our Teespring page to find some awesome merch we're offering for our viewers. We have more designs that are going to be added in the near future, so just follow the link in the description or take a peek at the shelf of merchandise under this video. Thanks for watching.